hearts. Monica's cheeks became faintly rosier due to their closeness to each other. Feeling his hot breath on her ear, her body froze in that instant.
Do you think I can't do anything to you because you tied a dead knot?
His voice, with a teasing undertone, drew close to her ear. Nervous, she moved to shut her eyes tightly, but was unprepared for the man's next action. With a pop, the lights went off, and everything around her became shrouded in darkness. She could hear his deep bass tone behind her.
Go to sleep.
His hushed voice continued to sound mischievous.
I'll let you off tonight.
While they were merely sleeping together without doing anything more, the gloominess in his heart dissipated as he sniffed her hair's sweet fragrance. A tantalizing beauty was indeed lying in his arms at the moment, which got him hot and bothered, especially when her curvaceous body would brush against his own every now and then. He did ask himself why the need for him to suppress his urge for her sake. He could very well rip off what she was wearing, and later to his satisfaction. However, as he felt her stiff body next to his, he did not initiate any action. The lust he had suppressed in his body tempted him much, but he preferred not to think about it as he pushed the urge away. Indeed, this was his first time purposely suppressing the flaming urge in his body just to please a woman. He did this so that he would not scare her away. Oh well, he would let her off for today. Still, he needed to do something, anything, to keep his lust under control. Hence, he bowed his head, pressed hard on her mouth, and kissed her over and over again. His tongue greedily licked her lip flaps. After that, he did nothing more except embrace her tightly in his arms, seemingly satisfied with that. At dawn, when the first rays of the sun filtered through the gap in the window curtains, she woke up. To be precise, she was long awake, for she had been unable to fall asleep all night. The man behind her looked fast asleep, but his arms were tightly locking her in his domineering embrace. His possessive action did not allow her to break free. They were at such proximity, with his nose steadily breathing air on hers. She somehow lost her composure. She carefully struggled free from his restraint and slowly got down from the bed. She then walked into the hall and pulled open the curtains. It was already bright and shining outside. Walking past the study room, she happened to glance at a huge picture frame hanging on the wall. Curious, she tiptoed her way into the room, somewhat feeling like an intruder. Hanging on the wall was an exquisite family portrait. In the photo, Peter Lewis, taking the seat of honor, was in the center. Beside him were Gracia Lewis, Patricia Thompson, Stefan's mother, Richard Lewis, Stefan's father, and the youth Stefan Lewis. The picture was taken in a bygone era, but well preserved. It still looked as good as new. She did not know the rest of the people in the photo, but she could identify Stefan at one glance. When he was younger, his present daunting and oppressive aura was non-existent, though he still stood out from those his age with his perfect features and shrewd eyes. His cool gaze was not much different from the present, and Andres somehow inherited this particular look in his father's eyes. Kinship was truly an amazing thing. As she was pondering on this, her peripheral view strayed on the girl standing beside Peter in the image. Her gaze slightly contracted, and her heart briefly skipped a beat. That girl looked so familiar. She seemed to have seen her before. The expression on her face, even the look in her eyes, felt strangely familiar to her. The visual was especially powerful. It looked so familiar, utterly familiar. However, the memory of her childhood was hazy, and she could not recall much of it. Numerous studies about psychology claim that to escape a dark past and protect oneself from painful memory, man could choose to forget or have selective amnesia. She had a rather dark childhood, filled with unhappiness, so she subconsciously chose to hide her past from herself in order not to revisit it again. Therefore, in the cloudy memory of her childhood days, which she had shut off her mind, she was unable to recall where she had seen this girl before. As she was feeling frustrated, her gaze fell on a photo frame on top of the study table, and her heart was instantly filled with warmth and gentleness. She took up that little picture frame featuring Sam in a handsome army uniform. Standing in a military posture, coupled with his striking countenance in full exuberance, he looked dashing in the photo. Sam was different from his younger sibling in that he was full of energy. His every move and action seemed to take after his father's valor and strength. Alas, he also inherited Stefan's haughty and mature charisma, which kept others at a distance. This image was taken a year ago when he was undergoing special military training. The uniform he was wearing was specially tailored to fit him well. His masculine build, with broad shoulders and tapered waist, was proportionate. Though he was young, he did not look out of place in the military outfit. She stared at the image in the photo for a long time. Her fingers brushed the spot where his eyes were, as something seemed to sting her chest. Sam and Andre's faces seemed to be fashioned in the same way. The two little fellows looked so alike. She pondered on this with a pout. There was a time when she could not stop thinking of this child every minute of the day. Blood was thicker than water. Kinship united their hearts. This was something not even separation could easily cut off. It would be the 1st of June, the day after tomorrow, and their birthday. She really wanted to give the little lad a gift wrapped by her two hands. As she was deep in her thoughts, conjuring wistful dreams, footsteps approached from behind without her noticing. Only when a pair of arms looped across her torso and pulled her into an embrace did she turn, with a start, and saw Stefan's drowsy face. He rested his chin lightly on her shoulder, looking tired and out of sorts. As he was fresh out of bed, his overpowering aura was still hibernating. His eyes did not hold their usual sharpness as well. His messy fringe slightly covered his eyes, making his already tempting looks seductive beyond words. This man still looked good even when he was down and about. It was no wonder so many women could not wait to flock to him.
What are you looking at?
Photo? He took the photo in her hand and glanced at it briefly.
Oh, this was taken last year.
Huh?
This little fellow is much taller now compared to last year.
How tall is he now? She eagerly checked with him. She wanted to know all she could about her son, whom she could not acknowledge.
140 centimeters.
He's that tall? She was rather amazed. He's much taller than Andre's then. He lowered his head to stare at her and smilingly asked,
Oh, how tall is Andre's?